What's going on, guys? Figured I'd get this stream started up and running. Make sure we get all the technical difficulties out of the way before anybody might hop on. So the whole point of the stream is to just go over my tuning experiences and PIDs and equipment and everything that I'm running on my 6-inch and 5.5-inch builds. Some of you might have seen my video, and after months of probably hundreds of trips going in and out of my front door, flying, watching the video, flying, watching the video, flying, and watching the video, I think I've came to some pretty good conclusions as far as like things to go ahead and try and things to not try. Hopefully save you guys some time and some suffering. Because as I'm learning now, I definitely suffered a little bit because I lost out on a lot of good flying time just out there worrying about how the video looked when I came back. So it's a pretty common thing because I see a lot of people still, when they get up into the 6-inch, I haven't got into the 7 or 8-inch stuff yet, and probably won't, just because I don't think the technology's there yet. So this is pretty much what I'm settling on. Let's see, what do we got here? Looks like the stream looks good. Looks like everything should be sounding good. Most people will probably just watch this back anyway afterwards and then have a bunch of questions because I don't have the large FPV audience like I do the DJI audience, which is fine. So we'll go over all this stuff, and then I guess if anybody has any general type of questions or anything at all, let me know. Any type of regular tuning, Betaflight questions, whatever. We'll do our best to go ahead and answer all of that. All right, well, let's just go ahead and get started talking about some of this stuff. So, my two main rigs right here, the 6-inch Canasti Cougar frame and the 5.5-inch Flight Club Proton Skeleton Edition. These are my two big rigs, to say. Both are running Crossfire, yada yada yada. Couple things to start with as far as what is the same. I run both of these on 5S. So going from 4S to 5S definitely affects the tune. And also the weight variances between these two affect the tune. And also the geometry affects the tune. Geometry is one thing that I definitely has discovered is, I think, something that a lot of people are overlooking when it comes to tuning in Betaflight for long range. And I think a lot of people are like myself. You know, everything flies great with stock PIDs pretty much. We tune up our Ps until it feels good, and then we start adding D and all that kind of stuff to try to smooth everything out. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. There's really not an exact science. So there's just things that I can hopefully tell you about that will save you some time and effort when it comes to getting this stuff going. So if we take a look at the 6-inch here, the 6-inch without a battery and a GoPro is at 480 grams. So that's a good point of reference for everybody. Now the 5.5-inch is at 350 grams. So this flies better and longer than the 6-inch, even though we're only running 5.5-inch props. So I love the way that two-bladed props sound and how they just kind of felt in the air, but the actual 3-blade props are a lot easier to tune, and the new Dow Cyclone 6040s have worked out the best for me. They've made things a lot easier. So let's go ahead and just jump into Betaflight, because that's what everybody wants to know. So we'll start with the 5.5-inch because it's real light, it's real powerful, and it's almost a true X. I don't run accelerometers. I try to take as much many variables out of the equation as possible. On the 5.5-inch, the motors are not soft mounted or anything because the Proton has the butter mounts that has the rubber grommets in the frame itself, so nothing is ever hitting or vibrating the frame. Combine that with the props that are balanced and have a great design, and that really helps everything out. Configuration wise, running D-Shot 600, There's not really going to be anything else special in here. 8K and 8K. I've tried different gyro frequencies. I've tried different PID loop frequencies. None of that really has seemed to make a difference. So just go ahead and do the best that your craft will do. So now when we go into the PIDs here of the 5.5 inch, the 5.5 inch PIDs are a lot higher than the 6 inch. So if we take a look at BETAFLIGHT stock PIDs, well, I don't want to do that. Let's go back to our profile. BETAFLIGHT stock PIDs, I think roll is at like 40 and pitch is at like 48, and then yaw I think is at 60, or wait a minute, 40, 58, and 60, or maybe it's 70. So with the 5.5 inch, pretty much everything has been working the way that a 5 inch would, except with a little bit more D-gain. Basically, the D-gain on the extra D on the roll and pitch is to compensate for the 5S battery power. I do have VBAC compensation turned on. I have set point and weight set to their normal values. I've been playing with them a little bit, but not much. TPA, I have a high TPA of 0.3. I do go above mid throttle quite a bit on this one because I like to rip around with it. And I have anti-gravity set at 4. Everything holds really good. So what I would recommend for anybody wanting to tune a 5.5 inch is to immediately start with your eye gains and just bump your eye gains all the way up. What we're do with these bigger ships is we're going to try to get more feel out of using I than we are with P. So you can see the eye gains are pretty high, not super high, but pretty high. Yaw needs to be higher than I thought. I used to think that yaw needed to be low because when I would look at the filters and everything like that, I would see a lot of noise in the yaw axis, but basically that just comes down to disc loading. So it's fighting a little bit harder. So you need to add in a lot of yaw P, maybe on a 5 inch start at 80 and see how that goes. Roll and pitch, I would start at 50 and 60, and you want this spread here to be closer to 8 to 10 between the two axes on something like an X versus like the squished X. So the BETAFLIGHT PIDs are way off. You know, they're like 18, I think, yeah, 40 and 58. So they're like 18 off on an almost true X. So it doesn't work out very well on that. If we look at filters, now I've ran through and done everything with the filters as far as doing the gyro debugging and looking at everything, and you just cannot get rid of all the noise that's getting to the gyro, no matter what, on a 5 inch, 5.5 inch, or 6 inch. So when you do the gyro debug, it gives you an average of a frequency, and if you look at different conditions that you fly in and temperatures and everything else, your resonant frequency is always going to change, not by much, but it can vary maybe 20 to 30 hertz plus or minus. So it's just best to let dynamic filtering just take care of that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just letting dynamic filtering take care of it. The after filter gyro traces in black box look just as good as with dynamic filtering turned off and tuning the notch filters as it does with just turning them off and letting dynamic filter take care of everything. So that is my recommendation. So if you want to get into a light 5S type of build like this, which I highly recommend this frame and this setup for medium to long range kind of stuff, having the lighter frame and being able to transfer that over to a larger size battery is going to give you more flight time. It makes the flight feel a lot more like a 5-inch, so it's definitely, I wouldn't say more enjoyable, but it's definitely more familiar and fun to play with. You know, 6 inches are a lot different animal when you fly them. So that is the 5.5 inch Proton. I don't see anybody asking any questions about anything, so I guess we will go ahead and keep this short and just go to the 6 inch. So back in the fall, I had this thing tuned and running good, but I was only flying it during dusk, which was hiding all of the problems. And now I can fly this in the brightest conditions, in wind or anything else. Check out the videos on the channel. You see that. Now I am running D-Shot 1200 on this one because these are 32-bit BL Heli ESCs. Helps a little bit. Don't really know how much of a difference it makes, but we'll just pretend that it makes a difference. And again, running AK on the board. Alright, now if we take a look at the PIDs, so we go up in prop size, we have to go down in RP and RD because we're creating a lot more noise and everything in the gyro. Filters and everything are still the same. I have went through this on the 6 inches with biblades and tri-blades and tuning the notch. Some people will say to tune your notch filters. I'm saying this is good. Let dynamic filtering just handle it and don't waste your time with it. Work on nailing down those P's and D's to a perfect level. This is a heavier ship, so I have anti-gravity set to 6 on here, and I'm not using any TPA because it's so big that when I punch out, it's not oscillating and flopping around all over the place. So one thing I like to do as I scroll through the PID values here is, and this is a squished X, so that's why there is such a difference here, where the True X only had an 8 to 10 difference in the value of the P gains between the roll and the pitch. This one needs a lot more because there's a lot more force exerting on the pitch axis because, well, just because that's how it is. But what I would tell everybody to do, and interestingly enough, I'm using the same eye gains pretty much on everything right now. So I've bumped all those up. The eye gain is what is giving me my tightness in my feel instead of P. P is basically just keeping everything going the way we need it to, and then a little bit of D to just relax everything, of course. So what I recommend everybody to do, so if you're using a squish decks like this, just start at 40, 60, 80. Once you get y'all at 75 or 80 is pretty good, much good on all the 6 inches now that I've figured out. So it's pretty much a set it and forget it. I probably wouldn't go that much higher because I guess it depends on the kind of flying that you're doing. If you're doing a lot of close in acro, then you probably want a little bit more yaw authority. But when we're flying long range, we really don't need a whole lot of yaw authority. So, you know, start these at like 35 and 55, and then switch to profile 2 and do like a 40 and 60, and then go to profile 3, and then, you know, so on and so forth. And then go out, do like a couple test laps with each profile, come back in, see which profile makes it past the cut as far as which video gives you the best smoothness and the less problems, and then start bringing down everything incrementally closer. So you can see here I went from 40 and 60 to 42 and 62. I think my D gain's the same. Yeah. And then this one here is 46 and 66. And I get good video on all three of these really. I get the best feeling though out of the one with the less amount of P. I don't know why, but it just feels better in the air than when I turn those two up. So again, this is for a squish decks. If you're dealing with a regular X pattern, then you probably would want to start these at like 35, 45, and 80. And then put your second group at 40 and 60, and your third group at 45 and, 50 and 60, and then put your next group 5 more above that. It doesn't take much. I never change the eyes. I pretty much settle in on a D gain. Try to keep your D as low as possible. I started mine at 30 and 35. And I just basically was looking at the proportion to the stock Betaflight PIDs as far as what percentage these would break down to, and then I just kind of adjusted them from there. So, but pretty much mid 30s. Need just a little bit lower here. You want to try to keep them as low as you can though, because the more D that you put in there, then the more problems you're just going to create for yourself. Let's go back into Betaflight here. Looks like I'm dropping a lot of frames for some reason. Betaflight really eats up a lot of resources. So we'll go ahead and disconnect from that. And that should bring the stream back to a healthy margin. So that is pretty much it. Only a couple people watching. Everybody must be in bed or doing something else. Any questions or anything out there? Hey, what's going on, Dobies? You've definitely seen my struggle. Nothing worse than trying to get some awesome video, you guys, and coming home and watching it and seeing all the oscillations in it. Probably not very entertaining right now either because I'm pretty tired, but wanted to get this done and out there because I've got some people on Facebook that are texting me about some information and wanting PIDs, and I just wanted to kind of go through my whole process for everybody so everybody kind of knows what to do, and then just kind of click in and out, you know, on your BETAFLIGHT OSD. Just set those profiles and just spread them out a little bit and then just start narrowing them down. And that's pretty much it. Don't waste your time with filters. Go get the right props that are working right now. Like these dowel props on 6-inch. These things are just working. I don't know why, but they just work. They've worked the best for me. I've tried the master air screws, I've tried the HQs, and they just work awesome. I think they definitely are a big part as far as getting better video. And then the last thing you can do is pick up one of those stick-on ND4 filters and stick that on the front of your session or on your GoPro. And that'll get rid of the jello, just because you're always going to get some kind of jello in the light in certain lighting conditions because of the rolling shutter, or you can roll that through some kind of corrective action on whatever editing program that you're using. So I think Race Day Quads has them now. They're like $8 or $10 for like a 4-pack. They're a pain in the neck to get on without getting bubbles in them. This just has the Impulse RC foam block on there, and the 5.5-inch. Mike has made this integrated mount that clicks into the plate. This quad's just awesome. I mean, every design aspect is great. Got my crossfire underneath there. Everything is completely so soft mounted, it's ridiculous. Got the Unify on top there. Only thing I don't like is the Axie. The video quality isn't as good as it could be because the Axie gets blocked by a lot of the frame. You can see that. Great for racing, not so good for medium and long range. So I'll probably end up, for tomorrow, I'll probably actually end up sticking a longer antenna on there because tomorrow is supposed to be nice and I plan on doing a lot of flying. By the way, 5S batteries, I'm using the Pyrodrone 1600 Who Cares brand and China Hobby Line 1300 5S's, and I also have some 1500 5S's from them coming because the 1300s perform better and get just as much time as these 1600s do, and they're about the same price. So love those China Hobby Line batteries for these things. Alright, dudes, well, appreciate you stopping by. I'm going to cut this off, and I'm sure people will be commenting if they watch it. Don't want to keep it that long. That way people will watch it when they see an hour and a half stream pop up. Nobody really watches the whole hour and a half, so hopefully everybody will see all the good stuff, and we'll get some things going. So anybody has anything to add, go ahead and add it to the comments. Thanks for watching, and we will see you later.